And people started coming to me, people that I knew, people who are in finance. And I really began to see that there was this huge group of people out there. And it dawned on me as I started doing work, like the more psychological work of myself, not the physical work, the more spiritual stuff, that I was like, wow, there's all these people out there who are very successful financially. And I've talked about this with both of you individually before. We're friends, but there's a whole mess of people out there who have prioritized the wrong things over a long period of time in their life. And they made a lot of money and they've been very successful on that front with a sacrifice of their own physical, psychological, spiritual, mental well-being. And so I just sort of gravitated into this thing where I help people now with that. People come to me, and now it's gotten more into hedge fund managers and traders coming to me, and they have this real. And so, like my basic theory is, and there's a lot of offshoots, but my basic, stupid, simple idea is that you get healthy, you perform better. You get healthy, you perform better at life. You get healthy, you perform better at whatever your vocation is. And that includes market participation. So if you're a trader or you're an investor or you're an advisor handling other people's money, you get healthy, mind, body, spirit, you improve in multiple areas. And one of them, and we know this for a fact, there's all kinds of evidence. All these studies have been done. We know that our executive functioning improves with our metabolic health. And by executive functioning, what I mean is decision-making, rational decision-making, impulse control, stress tolerance, high functions of the brain. You know what I mean? Not like walking and being cold, but like decision-making, like higher executive functions of the brain improve with our metabolic health. We know that from multiple lines of study, from the social psychological to the neurobiological. And so that is so I call that fitness alpha, right? And you could apply it to any field, but really it applies unbelievably well to people who are involved with markets because it is so taxing. It's stressful. It is, as we're seeing right now in this environment, it's volatile. It's subject to the whims of global macro, forces
things that are completely 100% out of our control.
Completely.
But yet our brain wants us to worry about them.
Yes. That's exactly correct. That is perfectly put. Said better, better than I could have said it. Perfectly. Exactly. So that's where I am today. And I get to work with I work with entrepreneurs too, and I work with other people too. And I have sort of a .org part of it. Where I work with people in my community who can't necessarily afford my services. And I'm looking to scale. I'm working with some organizations now where they're, people within the organizations are not, there's some people, incredible people who are working within organizations who are not necessarily firing on all cylinders. And how much can you improve an organization if you pick 3 or 5 decision makers within the organization and help them get to a place where they're performing at a higher level?
I have a question for you, Phil.
Yeah.
Would you say that the common denominator of the people who are coming to you are that they are all wanting and ready and able to make this change?
Well, you ask an amazing question, because that is a one problem with behavioral economics is that it is descriptive, right? It tells you what the problems are, right? It says, hey, this person is, holding on to their losers to a degree that is poor risk management, and that's loss aversion. And we have tests that we did to prove that in every direction. So it's descriptive. And it's not prescriptive, and it's not saying, well, what can you do about it, right? And, how can you help people change? That's a whole different art and science.
Right.
And so one of the key variables you just asked me about, and that is really when you cut through all of the BS, how ready, it's one of the variables. There's multiple variables and they interact in a dynamic fashion. And it is, how ready is this person? How eager, how top of energy? Like there's so many things, there's so many priorities that people have. And we have this sort of priority stack. And we don't necessarily consciously rearrange the priority stack. The priority stack just sort of appears as it is, like somehow.
Yep.
And some people really say they want to change, and that is lower it down. So the work begins earlier. The work begins with sort of this pre-work of like, hey, this is important, man. Your present self is really depending on you. You as a parent, you as an executive, you as a manager of other people's money, you as a human being to yourself. You need to do this to get to that next level so that you're doing everybody on that menu right. And then your future self, so it's like, hey, you owe it to your future self too. So we got to just get with some people come to me and they're so ready. They're like, I'm chomping at the bit. And all they need is a person saying, yeah,
here's the
going
prescription.
in the right direction.
Yeah.
This is what to do.
Yeah.
And they flick a switch. So I would say that there's like a small group of people who really, 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 really are ready. And all I have to do is say, hey, start moving your body. A little bit more complicated than this, but hey, start moving your body. Hey, don't eat this garbage, eat that good stuff that will really nourish your body, and go to bed. Get to bed. And don't go out on a Wednesday night drinking. Go to bed at 9:30.
It's like portfolio design. It doesn't have to be complicated to be effective.
Doesn't have to be complicated to be effective.
And the other thing you just articulated, I think, extremely well in slightly different language for you advisors and for you prospective clients out there. This is the difference between having a financial plan and getting good financial advice.
Yes.
Those are two different things.
Yes.
And it's easy to put this thing on paper that says you need to do X, Y, and Z. But if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then we as advisors haven't done our job in getting your brain into the right place to execute.